Part 1. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 1. 1. A New Life. Boom! There was a dull thunder from the sky. Click. A bright flash of lightning struck a distant tree. The heavy rain was falling, making people feel as if there is a river in the sky, and there is a big hole leaking. Even in this small Southeast Asian country in the tropical monsoon zone, such heavy rain is rare. However, outside the pitch-dark city, there were still lights flashing faintly. It was an abandoned warehouse with no human habitation at all, but now, there was a faint light coming from inside. Only dozens of militants with live ammunition were seen scattered around the warehouse, and they remained motionless even in the heavy rain. They are all natives of the country, with dark complexion, short stature, and fierce looks. They watch everything around them vigilantly, and some of them are even equipped with military night vision goggles. Inside the warehouse, several large trucks were parked there quietly. Ha 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 ha. Soon, these goods will be disguised as various goods and enter the overseas market. Our era is coming. Ha 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 ha. Ian, I have made a huge fortune for you. An old man in his 60s patted the shoulder of a young man beside him and laughed loudly. This is a 27 or 8-year-old man with a tall figure, and strong chest muscles can be seen from the open collar of the black shirt. He wore a pair of glasses to cover his sharp eyes, but he could still feel the sunshine and determination of this person from the sharp-edged cheeks, the stubble-like steel needles, and the slightly upturned too thin lips. He held an umbrella for the old man. The hand holding the umbrella was a healthy wheat color. A string of rosary beads made of 108 small ebony Buddha statues was wrapped around his wrists several times. On the back of his hand was a ferocious. The tattoo of the monster is in stark contrast to the string of beads. If it was normal, this man would definitely say a series of words that were just right and yet humble, which would make the old man very happy. However, this time, the man was unmoved, and there was an obvious mocking smile on his face. Seeing him like this, the old man suddenly felt something was wrong in his heart. Suddenly, there was loud gunfire outside, and only the guards on the perimeter could be heard screaming, "The police! The police are here!" The sound became more and more noisy, accompanied by the noise of various dialects mixed together, which roughly meant to put down weapons and surrender. But having said that, the gunshots outside never stopped. Obviously, the other party's yelling was just for fun. For this vicious drug trafficking armed forces, shoot to kill is justified. The old man's complexion suddenly changed, his eyes were bloodshot, and veins burst out on his forehead. He suddenly turned to this young man whom he called Ian, and pointed at him, but he couldn't say a word, only let out a burst of pain in his throat. There was a clucking sound. After a while, he finally said, "You. It's you. Except for me, only you know about the whole transaction process." Swipe. The surrounding militants immediately raised their assault rifles and pointed at Ian in the middle. Ian didn't care, he lit a cigarette for himself, and then blew the smoke on the old man's face with a puff. "Sorry, I'm a policeman." Boom! A thunderstorm sounded in the sky, covering up the dense gunfire from inside the warehouse. But everyone didn't notice that in the sky, an extremely terrifying lightning was brewing. Boom! Click. Crimson lightning fell from the sky and hit the warehouse squarely. Everyone in the warehouse was knocked down by the spreading electric current, but Ian, who had just been smashed into a sieve by countless bullets, had a phantom appear above his head and disappeared into the lightning. The Laplace multidimensional universe calculation system is starting. Detect qualified target, start capture program. The capture is successful, the partition is being determined, completed, the partition is determined to be TS, and the training mode of this partition is the U-1772X49 plan. Target name, Chenyu Yan number, TS0933722243. The auxiliary system is being generated, completed system number TS0933722243. World positioning, completed, confirm the world number as TSW-223710, Command and Conquer / All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 2. 2 Speed of Life and Death. The thick clouds that cannot be seen at a glance in the sky are changing. An extremely huge vortex-shaped storm is forming at a speed visible to the naked eye. The diameter of this vortex may be tens or even hundreds of kilometers, so that from this angle, one can almost only see a block of countless yellow dark clouds. The giant wall. In this vortex, countless lightnings are constantly flashing. The frequency of the lightning is getting higher and higher, and the intensity is getting stronger and stronger. Even through the clouds, it is extremely dazzling. What's even more weird is that in the center of this terrible storm, a green light began to shine. Even Chen Yuyan's face reflected a green color. In front of this destructive scene, Chen Yuyan was completely stunned. Immediately afterwards, a huge meteorite fell from the sky pulling green clouds, and as he watched helplessly, it knocked down a high-rise building a few kilometers away. Completely blown into ruins. After the building began to disintegrate and countless flames began to rise, boom. Only then did a deafening explosion reach my ears. Accompanied by a very obvious earthquake. Fear seemed to grab Chen Yuyan's heart directly with a big hand. After witnessing this scene, he turned around and ran away without hesitation. Although he didn't know where he was going, he just knew that he must not stay here any longer. Staying in this high-rise building, he could only wait for death. He kicked open the door and rushed out, only to see that the corridor was already in a mess, with countless men and women rushing towards the elevator, crying and shouting. Obviously, he was not the only one in the audience for the horrible scene just now. Chen Yuyan tried his best to push through the crowd and ran towards the stairs. The elevator was hopeless, and the stairs were the fastest at this time. Boom! Boom! Explosions continued to be heard outside, and it was obvious that the terrible scene just now was being repeated. Only then did Chen Yuyan understand what kind of meteor shower it was that made the country make the decision to abandon a city-level city. Obviously, this has already happened again. Right where you are. Trial mission is open. After completing the trial, the experimenter will officially become the experimenter. Mission 1, arrive at the 4th basement floor of the building within 10 minutes. Mission success reward, elementary physique strengthened once. Punishment for mission failure, no punishment is required, you will already be dead by then. A voice appeared in Chen Yuyan's mind very abruptly, but the current situation did not allow him to think too much. He didn't even think about where the voice came from. Now all he could think about was how to escape, and this the voice just gave him a direction. 4 floors underground? Well, although I don't know what the situation is, the basement is obviously safer in the face of such natural disasters. Just 10 minutes? Chen Yuyan rushed into the corridor and almost collapsed seeing the big characters 48F on the wall. Even with Chen Yuyan's body that had been trained on the streets for a long time, it would be ridiculous if he wanted to go down from the 48th floor to the 4th floor in 10 minutes. You know it's full of people everywhere now. But so far we can only fight. Now the situation outside has completely collapsed. There is no doubt that from the information conveyed by the voice suddenly coming from inside the head, you can understand that maybe your life really only has 10 minutes left, and it is very likely that after 10 minutes, there will be a meteorite like just now hitting this building. Thoughts were spinning, but Chen Yuyan kept running between the stairs without stopping. He only goes down half of the stairs on each floor, and then immediately jumps from the railing to the next floor, so that it only takes him a few seconds to go down the next floor. However, this is the 48th floor, and Chen Yuyan's current body is not the same as before, but fortunately, this body is obviously the type that often goes to the gym, and the body is well maintained, so it won't stop eating after a few strokes. In normal times, Such a handsome, sunny, young, and wealthy person would definitely attract beautiful women. Well, there was one of them upstairs, but it was struck to death by lightning. The 15th floor, 14th floor, 13th floor, Chen Yuyan's physical strength was almost exhausted, his heart was beating violently, and the t-shirt he grabbed casually when he went out was already soaked in sweat. He tried his best to adjust his breathing, for fear of letting it out. I can no longer get up. Chen Yuyan took a deep breath, summoned up his strength again, jumped up to the next floor with a sudden jump on the railing, and then continued to rush down level by level. The further he went down, the more people there were on the stairs, and he had to push people away several times to continue down. There was even a man who was pushed down and wanted to rush up to fight him, but was slapped aside by Chen Yuyan, and then he continued to go down. Third floor. Chen Yuyan fell to the ground with a soft thud, and was trampled on in the chaos. He hurriedly stood up, leaning on the railing and gasping for breath. Sweat dripped from his forehead like rain, which was a manifestation of excessive physical exercise. But the strong desire to survive once again overwhelmed everything. During the 10 years he had been an undercover informant in that small Southeast Asian country, what had he not seen? Killing on the street, plotting and kidnapping, fighting between gangsters and even warlords, even crawling out of corpses. This exhaustion is nothing? He struggled to climb up the railing, fell to the next floor in a posture that almost fell, and then continued down. Just went down to the first floor, only heard a loud bang. The whole building shook violently, and large chunks of concrete and broken glass could be seen falling from the window. The building was hit. Immediately afterwards, there was another loud bang, and a small meteorite fell from the sky with green smoke, just in time to explode in the crowd of people swarming out. Immediately, a piece of residual limbs and pieces of meat mixed with stones and flames splashed out towards the surroundings. The crowd around suddenly let out a scream, and the scene became extremely chaotic. Some people wanted to run upstairs, but more people wanted to go down. Suddenly, countless people crowded into a mess. Seeing that the road here was about to be blocked by chaotic crowds, Chen Yuyan immediately rolled on the spot in a hurry, and rolled down the stairs. He was thrown dizzy, but he finally got down to the basement floor. There are a lot fewer people here than on the first floor. He stood up from the ground, his hands and feet trembling unceasingly. He almost tried his best to stand on the ground, but with his last will, he rolled and climbed down to the ground. 3 floors. However, so much for the stairs. No fourth basement, no. Chen Yuyan's face suddenly became bewildered, and he fell to his knees on the ground. What about the 4th floor? Where? It wasn't until this moment that Chen Yuyan was a little dazed. Things that he hadn't had time to think about at the moment of life and death just now came to his mind. What was the voice in his head? Why did you ask me to come to the 4th basement? Task. What task? Award. What reward? The roar of explosions outside is still heard from time to time, as well as the sound of heavy objects hitting the ground. This building is collapsing. Some people started to run down the stairs, and the number of people here gradually began to increase. Chen Yuyan gritted his teeth suddenly. He was never a person who gave up halfway. He said it was the 4th basement floor, so it was the 4th basement floor. According to his estimation, there should be about 1 to 2 minutes left, and the 4th underground floor must be found. He ran out of the stairwell regardless of his trembling legs. This is an underground parking lot. There are already panicked crowds trying to rush out, but they are all blocked in the narrow passage. Some crazy drivers want to hit the car in front of them. Open, but it still doesn't help, but makes the scene even more chaotic. Trumpets, roars, cries, collisions, explosions, countless noisy noises interweave into a doomsday song. Chen Yuyan ignored the messy parking lot. He struggled to run towards the elevator shaft in the center of the building, where was the last hope. Maybe the fourth basement floor can only go down by elevator. Even if not, the load-bearing structure of this kind of super high-rise building is all around the central structure. Most of them are cylindrical structures. If there are more underground buildings, that is only possible is in a central location. He had just rushed out of the elevator shaft when he suddenly heard a tooth-sickening sound of metal rubbing and roaring, followed by a boom. There was a terrible loud noise, followed by a strong shockwave rushing out of the elevator shaft, and the walls around the elevator shaft instantly collapsed. Chen Yuyan dodged behind a load-bearing pillar for the first time, dodged the deadly shockwave, and then rushed into the smoke without hesitation. The explosion just now was caused by a falling elevator. This is the last chance. At the same time, in the extremely huge storm vortex in the sky, a meteorite shining with green light fell from the sky, and the falling direction of this meteorite was exactly this hotel building. The building will be completely destroyed after 10 seconds, 8, 7, 6, 5. The mysterious voice sounded in Chen Yuyan's mind again, and he didn't care about anything else, so he rushed into the elevator shaft as fast as he could with his last strength. Surrounded by burning fragments of the elevator and fragments of mutilated corpses, he ignored it completely and just rushed to the place where the elevator fell. This place is already a huge pothole, the bottom is pitch black, and stones and rubble continue to fall from the elevator shaft. It seems that the falling elevator smashed the ground and fell to the non-existent fourth underground floor. Chen Yuyan gritted his teeth violently, leaped forward, and threw himself out. Suddenly there was a loud bang, and the whole ground began to tremble, and then he felt as if his back was hit by a truck. Under the strong impact, Chen Yuyan completely lost consciousness. And the last picture he saw was boundless explosions, smoke, debris, and countless green crystals. And at that moment, Chen Yuyan didn't see that a silver spot of light suddenly pierced through the endless explosion, and instantly sank into the back of his head. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 3. 3. The Source of Civilization. Experimenter, Chen Yuyan, serial number TS0933722243. Task, reach the fourth basement floor of the building within 10 minutes, complete. Task rating, none, there is no rating for this task. Reward for completing the task, strengthen the primary physique once, find the strengthening medium, scanning. Scanning is complete, physical strengthening begins, complete. Detected the source of civilization, began to analyze, complete system fusion in progress, completed. Source of civilization, infinite base creator, level 7 civilization, Guardian Empire. Warning, the energy supply of the life support system is exhausted, the wake-up procedure is activated. Cough cough cough. A violent cough woke Chen Yuyan up, and he felt that there was no air in his lungs. He breathed with all his strength, and after a burst of sound like a bellows, he finally recovered, opened his eyes, and found that the surroundings were dark, and there was a ventilator on his face. Chen Yuyan tore off the ventilator, and found that he was being packed in a container, and couldn't help feeling agitated. Trying to push it forward, with a click, the hatch was easily pushed open, and only then did he realize that he was in a small room. The surrounding lights were a bit dim, but it was still possible to tell that this was a room that looked like a hospital ward. Chen Yuyan walked out of the previous container and looked back. It was an oval metal tank about 2 meters high, which made him a little confused for a while, and the memory in his mind was a little bit wrong. He still remembers now that there was an extremely violent explosion at the end, and at that time he was about to jump down from the elevator shaft, and was hit by the shockwave in mid-air, and he didn't know what happened after that. But how did you get here? Was it rescued? So, where is this? Feeling chilly all over his body, Chen Yuyan realized that he had no clothes on at all. He quickly looked around and found several white coats hanging on the wall. He took one and put it on. The clothes smelled of dust. It seems that no one has worn it for a long time. When we came to the door, it was a metal automatic door, which looked very strong, but Chen Yuyan didn't know how to open the door after pressing the code switch next to it several times. Just when he was about to think of other ways, a voice suddenly sounded in his mind. In the authority setting of the underground base, the experimenter Chen Yuyan is now the owner of the highest management authority of the base. A very flat female voice suddenly came. As soon as the voice fell, the red light on the password switch suddenly turned green. Chen Yuyan was startled by the sudden voice. He looked around and asked loudly, "Who are you? Where are you? Come out. I am the Laplace multidimensional universe calculation system, and I will serve you in the future. I talk to you directly through brainwave resonance, and my body is not in the same dimension as you. You are the one who told me to go to the fourth basement. Where am I now? Why did I appear in this world? What is your purpose?" Chen Yuyan asked a series of questions. "You came to this world because you were selected by the Laplace multidimensional universe calculation system. Congratulations, this is a world with infinite possibilities, just like the name of the system, Laplace multidimensional cosmic calculus system. The system will observe your growth trajectory and use it as important experimental data." Chen Yuyan's face darkened. "So, I'm just a test subject?" "You are indeed a test subject, but you got a second life because of it. The release of the task is also an opportunity for you to become stronger, and will not interfere with your life. System prompt: you have obtained the source of civilization, the infinite base, and the system has been integrated with the source of civilization, so your growth trajectory will be different from others." Chen Yuyan's expression softened a little. If it is true that he did get another life as the system said, it is a fact. So he nodded and continued to ask, "What is an infinite base?" "It is the seed of civilization from an extremely powerful multiverse empire. The seed came to this world through time and space by chance, and was included in the meteorite that hit this building at the time of the meteorite attack. You were the only survivor, so you also inherited the source of this civilization. The infinite base has been integrated with your soul, and you can control it at any time." "Then how should I control it?" Just after Chen Yuyan asked, an interface suddenly appeared in his mind. There are several buttons in this interface, including construction, technology, function, resources, etc. Some of the buttons are gray. With a thought in Chen Yuyan's mind, the construction button was pressed, and then a very empty interface appeared. At the top of the interface is an icon of a building. He extended his consciousness over it, and the description of the building was conveyed to his mind. Manufacturing Center, current level 1. Function 1, you can build all industrial products, but you must have the corresponding technological data, which is the basis of everything. More functions will be unlocked after reaching a higher level. Resources required for construction, none. Space required for construction, 40 times 100 square meters, 10 meters high. Can be built after choosing a build location. You can build all industrial products. This thing is interesting. Chen Yuyan scratched his head, but now we need to find a place to build this thing. Then I need to check this place first. After merging with the infinite base, you already have the ability to scan, please check it yourself. The sound of the system came. Scanning. Chen Yuyan thought for a while, and turned on the function button in his mind. There is only one item in its scanning. The experimenter can scan the technology they come into contact with and save it in their own database. Note that the scan must not start until the target is fully dominated. Scanning. Anything is fine? Chen Yuyan thought to himself. He put his hand on the culture tank he came out of just now, and said silently, "Start scanning." I only saw a ray of light sweeping across the cultivation tank, and then the system voice came over. The scan has been completed, and the infinite base database has entered level 1 cultivation tank technology. As expected, It can be scanned. Chen Yuyan was a little excited, and now he looked at the interface of the infinite base, only to see the construction information of a level 1 cultivation tank in the construction interface, but now this thing cannot be constructed, because he has not put it. The manufacturing center was repaired. But you can see a line of reminders next to it. This building belongs to the civilian technology tree. Civilian technology tree? What kind of strange stuff? Chen Yuyan thought about it and didn't have a clue, so he decided to explore the surroundings first, and then build the manufacturing center. At this time, the system's voice sounded again: Experimenter Chen Yuyan, serial number TS0933722243, now restart the trial task. Trial Mission 2, successfully build a manufacturing center and patrol the surrounding area to ensure safety. Task Reward: after completing the trial mission, you will become an official experimenter and open the multidimensional universe shuttle function. Reminder: the energy in the current underground base is about to run out. Please experimenters restore the energy supply as soon as possible, otherwise you will suffocate to death. Trial mission? Energy supply? Well, finally, there is a goal, right? Chen Yuyan took a deep breath, raised his hand and clenched his fist. Before he was attracted by the system and the infinite base, he didn't realize it, but now going to feel it again. I found that his physical condition is very good, his hands are full of strength. I don't know how much better than when he climbed the 48th floor out of breath just after crossing. Is this the elementary body strengthening mentioned by the system before? Chen Yuyan nodded secretly. When he came to the door, he didn't open it right away, but looked outside through the narrow glass window of the automatic door. The glass window seemed to have been smashed from the outside, and many cracks affected the line of sight. Only the outside was dark, and nothing could be seen clearly. Chen Yuyan thought for a while, then pressed the button at the door, and the automatic door began to slide open to both sides. With a click, it seemed to be stuck by something, and then only a large black shadow mixed with countless dust fell down. Chen Yuyan hurriedly dodged, only to see that what fell down was a rotten table, which had been broken into pieces on the ground. Not only that, but with the opening of the automatic door, several objects that were leaning on the door also fell down. It was 3 skeletons. Chen Yuyan's eyes suddenly narrowed, not because of fear, but because the appearance of these 3 skeletons is really weird. These skeletons have been around for some years, and the skin and flesh have completely decayed, leaving only dry black bones. What's even more surprising is that there are some fine green crystals growing from the inside of the bones, and it can be seen from the broken bones that these green crystals have penetrated deep into the bone marrow. The skeletons were all wearing white coats, but they had already been broken into pieces, and when they fell down, they turned into dust. Obviously, these 3 people wanted to enter the ward they were in before, but the ward had been taken over by the system before, so they could not enter. Chen Yuyan looked at the fire extinguishers, hammers and other items scattered on the ground. It seemed that the automatic door was very strong, and they couldn't destroy the door and rush in, so they could only die at the door. But the question is, why do these skeletons look like they have been dead for many years? Obviously, it hasn't been long since I escaped to the 4th basement floor of that hotel building. Even if he is in a coma, he can't be in a coma for so long, right? He thought for a while and asked in a low voice, "System, how long have I been in a coma?" The system will only answer questions related to the system. For other things, the experimenter should find the answer by himself. The system replied very coldly. I bother. Chen Yuyan spat secretly in his heart, carefully avoided the skeleton at the door, and walked outside. The green crystals on these bones are really weird. God knows if they are poisonous, but they are obviously harmful to the human body. There is no doubt about this. It was dark outside, only a few lights were still stubbornly on now and then, barely illuminating the surroundings. After wandering around for a while, Chen Yuyan discovered that this is an underground base. The area that can be explored in the base is not large. There are about 10 rooms, which should be dormitories. There is still a part of the base that has collapsed and cannot be passed through. I don't know what's going on there. But after turning around, Chunyuan also discovered that this base has indeed been abandoned for at least 10 years. Along the way, he saw at least 7 or 8 skeletons, all of which were extremely decayed, and more or less green crystals grew from these skeletons. Moreover, all the facilities in the base were covered with a thick layer of dust, and many things were decayed and damaged. Such a situation made Chunyuan feel even more strange. Where exactly is this place? Why would I be in a base that has been abandoned for more than 10 years? All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 4. 4 Alien Buildings. Chunyuan walked around the base again. Although the elevator here was intact, it had no power supply and could not be started. But Chunyuan didn't feel suffocated, which meant that the air circulation system in this place was still working. Turning around a bit, there are more than 10 rooms here, but there is no energy supply device. Looking at a large collapsed area, Chunyuan judged that the energy supply should be behind. After thinking for a while, he began to look under those lighting lamps. He used some iron rods and screwdrivers he found to disassemble a lighting lamp, then dug out the pipeline inside, and followed the direction of the pipeline to find the power source. He dug and searched, and the wires stretched forward, until, where the base had collapsed. As expected, Chunyuan looked at the piles of concrete and rubble scattered in front of him, and was speechless for a while. So I'm going to dig the mud now, he muttered, but his hands kept grabbing a block of concrete was lifted violently. Although he clearly felt that his body was much stronger than before, he tried his best to move the large stone, which was at least several hundred kilograms, only slightly. Looking around, Chunyuan finally found that there was a room next to him that seemed to be the other side of the collapsed part. This was good news. It would be better to dig through a wall than to dig through the mud. He picked up a fire axe he found earlier and walked forward. Boom! 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 Chunyuan swung the axe and chopped on the wall one by one. Every time the axe was struck, the stones were scattered everywhere, but he enjoyed it. Because he felt that as he chopped down with all his strength, his control over this body was also improving little by little, and it seemed that he had endless power. He guessed that this should be the result of the primary physique enhancement rewarded by the system before. This kind of enhancement is not like adding an attribute point in the game, but requires continuous training and development. Thinking of this in his heart, Chunyuan became more motivated. He simply took off his dirty white coat, bare his upper body, and sweated freely. Boom! Boom! Wow! Finally, Chunyuan went down with an axe, and a hole was finally cut through the wall, and he hurriedly began to clean up the loose bricks around him. As the bricks were pulled down, behind him appeared a dark room. Walking through the room, most of the corridor at the back had collapsed, and Chunyuan managed to find a way out of the scattered ruins and found a broken elevator shaft. This elevator shaft is obviously independent from the elevator he saw before, and it is cylindrical. The elevator car has already fallen down, and there are only a few dangling steel cables. A large number of cables are gathered around, extending all the way down the elevator shaft. Well, it looks like the energy supply is down below. Chunyuan took a deep breath and looked at the elevator shaft. There was still a glimmer of light coming from below. He gritted his teeth and tore a few strips of cloth from the bones next to him to wrap them around. In your hand, grab the wire rope and climb down. After climbing down for about 10 meters, Chunyuan was stunned when he saw the surrounding environment clearly. Here is a vast space of at least several hundred square meters, with a huge transparent sphere in the center, and what supports the sphere is a very complicated architectural structure similar to insect carapaces. Undoubtedly, compared with the solid structural mechanics commonly used in human architecture, this kind of architecture uses biomechanics. Around the sphere, a large number of instruments and equipment are connected, which are obviously the construction style of human beings. Apparently the people who were originally stationed at the base were working on this device and had made some progress connecting their equipment to this strange device. So, what is the sphere in the middle? Thinking in his heart, Chen Yuyan stepped forward to touch this object. It's slightly cool to touch, but it's obviously not metal, it's more like a biological carapace. He frowned and thought for a while, then said, "System, start scanning." A ray of light swept across the device, and soon, the system voice came, "The scan has been completed, the infinite base has entered an unknown building, the experimenter is asked to check it in the building list." "What's the situation of the unknown building?" Chen Yuyan asked. "This building cannot be understood at the current level of the experimenter. It can only be built when the level of the manufacturing center of the infinite base is raised to level 10. Open the building list." With a thought in Chen Yuyan's mind, the interface of the infinite base appeared in his mind. Sure enough, two branches appeared under the building interface, one of which was civil technology, and inside it was the level 1 culture tank he scanned just now. But at this time, there is another branch, unknown alien technology, and this building is in it. Unknown building. Function 1, Tiberium crystals can be refined into a liquid state, the purity can reach 99%, but the amount that can be accommodated is limited. Function 2, to provide energy, it will consume liquid Tiberium crystals. The other functions of the building are unknown, and will be open for construction after the manufacturing center is upgraded to level 10. This is an unknown building? Unknown alien technology, in other words, this is an alien technology. It's amazing. However, the problem is solved now, this base is provided by this alien building energy. Chen Yuyan suddenly understood, he looked around, and sure enough, a large number of cables were connected to the middle sphere through the equipment that was obviously built by humans, so this is here. He looked around, and sure enough, he saw a computer that was still working. He rushed to check it, and sure enough, he saw that the current energy stock was displayed on the interface as 0.2%. He looked carefully at the operation interface and saw a button to add ingredients, so he pressed it without hesitation. There was only a sound of a motor, and a feed port was opened on a large machine connected to the sphere, and now this problem has been solved. But the most crucial question is: Tiberium crystal. What is Tiberium crystal? Chen Yuyan looked around, but saw several large iron cans beside the machine, and there were symbols of dangerous chemicals on the iron cans, which made him dare not to touch it rashly. I could only tap lightly with an axe, making a hollow sound, and the inside was empty. What to do? The base's energy is about to run out after 10 minutes, the life support module will stop working, and the ventilation system will stop, the system's voice sounded mercilessly. Suddenly, Chen Yuyan slammed the table and shouted loudly, "I understand. Tiberium crystals are probably those crystals grown from corpses. Time is running out." This kind of green crystal seemed to be harmful to the human body, and Chen Yuyan couldn't care less about it. He found 2 more clothes and wrapped them in his hands, ran all the way, grabbed a skeleton and threw it into the feeding port next to the machine. 1, 2, 3, after he threw 7 or 8 skeletons in, he returned to the computer and pressed the confirm button on the button for adding ingredients. With the sound of the motor, the feeding port is closed and the machine starts to run. At this time, I only saw a faint multicolored light emitting from the transparent sphere, just like soap bubbles in the sun. Immediately afterwards, some green viscous liquid flowed into the transparent sphere from the machine next to it, emitting bursts of fluorescence. Looking at the computer again, I found that the energy storage on it had increased to 3%. There is a show. The green crystals on those corpses are indeed Tiberium crystals, which can be used as energy. Chen Yuyan pumped his fist excitedly, and then climbed up along the way without hesitation. He remembered that there was an elevator on the upper floor that seemed to lead to the outside, but it couldn't be started due to lack of energy. To be honest, seeing the ruins and dilapidation here, Chen Yuyan felt a little uneasy, and he really wanted to see what the outside world was like. Where is he? What happened during this period of coma? The elevator going out of the base is hidden in a huge structural column. Obviously, the construction of this secret underground base was considered at the beginning of the building's construction. The elevator door opened silently, and with a crash, countless rubble collapsed, almost burying Chen Yuyan. He managed to crawl out in disgrace, cursing inwardly. But then, his expression froze. What caught his eyes was a bleak scene, and it was somewhat familiar. There are also some pointing signs looming on the wall, countless cars that have been burned and weathered into frames, and black skeletons. This is clearly the parking lot. The building on the upper floor of the parking lot has collapsed, but the part near the elevator where Chen Yuyan is located may be because the building structure has been reinforced, so the frame is basically maintained and has not collapsed, so that the elevator entering and exiting the base has not been damaged. Sun and rain. Wisps of sunlight shone through the surrounding gaps, and the air seemed to be filled with light yellow smoke. After carefully checking the surrounding environment with the help of the sunlight, he finally confirmed that this was the underground third-floor parking lot of the hotel when he crossed over. The appearance here is almost exactly the same as at that time, but after an unknown number of years, the corpse has turned into a skeleton, and the vehicle has also become a black frame. Moreover, clusters of green crystals, tiberium crystals, are scattered everywhere. From human skeletons, from car gas tanks, and even from cracked concrete crevices, the crystals are found almost everywhere. Chen Yuyan began to piece together some fragments in his mind. It seems that this hotel only has 3 underground floors on the surface, but in fact, there were 4 underground floors at the beginning of the hotel's construction. It was a secret research base. What is handwritten can only be the state machine. And the meteor shower that almost destroyed the sky and the earth that he witnessed when he just crossed over did indeed destroy the city. When the disaster happened, an elevator fell from the upper floors, causing a partial collapse of the secret base, and he fell from the collapsed place. Afterwards, he should have been taken in by the people in the base, and the base should have been operating for a period of time, and then due to some unknown reasons, the base was abandoned. Or rather, was destroyed. The only question now is, how long has it been? Chen Yuyan looked around, and his heart gradually began to sink. Judging from the surrounding situation, it may have been more than 10 years, he raised his hands, more than 10 years. Then why is my body still the same as when I traveled through time? All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 5. 5 Intruder. There are too many mysteries. What happened after I crossed over? What era is it now? What is that Laplace multidimensional universe calculus system? What is an infinite base? Therefore, now we can only explore bit by bit. First, build the manufacturing center. Then ensure the safety of the surrounding environment, complete the tasks of the system, become an official experimenter, and then talk about other things. As for the underground base, Chen Yuyan didn't intend to move it. He felt that there were too many mysteries in that base that needed to be discovered bit by bit. Now most of the base has collapsed and been buried in dust. However, at the tip of the iceberg, there is such an alien power station, it can only be called that at present, because the building seems to be able to only generate electricity. So obviously, there's more to the underground base. Therefore, Chen Yuyan planned to build the manufacturing center above this underground base to completely protect it. He wandered around the ruins. This once at least 50-story building now has only 4 ground floors that are barely preserved and crumbling. In contrast, the 3-story underground parking lot is relatively complete and the structure is relatively strong, but about half of the area has collapsed. And there is no sign of any human habitation here. Chen Yuyan turned around, returned to the third basement floor, and looked at this space. 40 meters wide and 100 meters long, such a space is not difficult to find in this underground 3-story parking lot. The problem is that the countless ruins are still 10 meters high. Chen Yuyan raised his head and checked the height of the parking lot. It is about 4. If it is to be built, the base will go directly to the basement level. He frowned and thought for a while and asked, "System, if I want to build an infinite factory in the underground 3-story parking lot, what about these miscellaneous ruins and wreckage?" The construction of any building in the infinite base is completed through space transfer, and all obstacles within the range will be transferred to another space at the same time, without affecting the construction. Then if it is built directly like this, will the manufacturing center collapse the underground base? Also, will the ruins of the surrounding building collapse without that piece? Chen Yuyan continued to ask. According to the calculation of the system, after the manufacturing center is built, the underground base will not collapse further because it has already collapsed, but the parts buried in the ruins will be irreversibly damaged at the same time. The probability of the ruins of this parking lot collapsing is higher than 70%. Is there a way to avoid both of these situations? You can choose camouflage mode. To build in camouflage mode, the manufacturing center will try to blend into the surrounding environment as much as possible, and it will also contain a certain amount of camouflage, making it difficult for the outside world to discover at the same time. Because the structure of the ruins and the underground base is already unstable, an independent support structure will be built during the construction of the infinite base to ensure the stability of the surrounding structures, which is equivalent to supporting and strengthening the underground base. What about the price? The construction time will be extended from instant completion to 12 hours. Chen Yuyan thought for a while. Then the question now is how to ensure that no one else will find out within these 12 hours. After thinking about it, he took a deep breath and said loudly, "Okay. Let's build a manufacturing center on the third basement floor of the parking lot, above the underground base. Use camouflage mode to build." Request accepted. The manufacturing center starts construction in camouflage mode. As soon as the system finished speaking, a blue light curtain appeared instantly under his watchful eyes, covering an area of 40 meters x 100 meters x 10 meters, covering at least 1/3 of the parking lot on this floor. Chen Yuyan couldn't see what was going on inside the light curtain at all, but he could clearly see that everything on the edge of the light curtain was cut off. He saw the wreckage of a car cut in two by the light curtain. Segment, half inside the light curtain and half outside the light curtain. The cut is smooth, even the sharpest knife cannot do it. 12 hours, the situation is a bit serious. Contrary to imagination, the construction of the infinite factory is quite noisy. At least this piece of light curtain can be easily spotted by others. But now I can't care about so much. Chen Yuyan carried a steel bar as a weapon, came to the ground, hid in the shadow of the building ruins, and looked around quietly. Looking around, the surrounding air is filled with a faint yellow mist. The sky is so densely covered with yellow clouds that the sun cannot be seen, and the sun shrouds it like being in a desert. And all around is devastation, ruins, ruins, still ruins. Everything around is in ruins. There are collapsed and abandoned buildings everywhere, gray concrete and dots of green crystals, and the bones of the victims can be seen everywhere, forming a lifeless doomsday scene. What happened in this world? Meteor showers can destroy such a huge city. And there is no sign of rebuilding, and no one has collected the corpses. What is the state machine doing? Or, does the state machine still exist? Chen Yuyan, his heart sank. Everything in this world was so hopeless. He was patrolling around while sighing like this. The 12 hours was neither long nor short, and Chen Yuyan didn't dare to relax even for a minute. However, after 10 hours, there was still no movement around, which made him wonder if this was a no man's land. If so, Chen Yuyan didn't know whether he should be happy or nervous. Because if there are no people around, according to the desertedness of the city, the possibility of finding food is very slim. This is fatal in such an environment. It was getting late, and the blue light curtain when the infinite factory was built became more and more obvious. At this moment, Chen Yuyan suddenly saw two lampposts appearing from a distance. And the sound of an engine is getting closer and closer, coming towards this side. It's a vehicle. Someone. Chen Yuyan was startled, and quickly hid himself. The car was getting closer and closer, but it was a military jeep. There were 3 people sitting in the car. They looked tough, especially the big man sitting in the co-pilot. He was taller than the driver just sitting there. Almost a head out. They obviously saw the light curtain here, drove to the ruins of the building, picked up the assault rifles in their hands and stood at the entrance of the parking lot to discuss in low voices. It is actually armed. Chen Yuyan looked carefully and found that the 3 of them had a red cloth wrapped around their right arms. So obviously, this is an organized armed force. So, should you contact them, or find a way to kill them? 2 options immediately came to Chen Yuyan's mind. Of course, it would be beneficial to contact them, because he knew nothing about this world, and he needed to communicate with these aborigines to understand the current situation. But, Chen Yuyan looked at the assault rifles in their hands, and immediately denied this option. Because if you want to go out and contact them, you will undoubtedly be pointed at by them. In this way, it is tantamount to handing over one's life to the other party's control. Who knows what kind of people they are? What if it was a slave trader? Or a bandit who kills without blinking an eye? So, sorry. You have only one dead end. Chen Yuyan's gaze was icy cold. He never minded killing people. During his 10 years as an informant in a small country in Southeast Asia, in order to hide his identity, he followed his boss and did a lot of bad things, killing many people. There are innocent civilians, as well as other drug lords or warlords, but he has not wavered in the slightest. Because he is very clear that his ultimate goal is to kill his boss and dismantle the largest drug trafficking force in that country. As long as this goal can be achieved, he doesn't mind killing a few more people, even innocent civilians. Because he understands that if this goal is not achieved, more people will die. This is the distorted sense of justice in Chen Yuyan's heart, ruthless, cruel, and unscrupulous. So even he himself felt that in his previous life, the final sacrifice was the most suitable ending, otherwise, he felt that his twisted heart would not be able to live peacefully in that world. At this time, the 3 people had already negotiated. The man who drove the car stayed in the car and guarded, and the other big man who was obviously the leader led another person into the parking lot to investigate. The right choice. A sneer appeared on the corner of Chen Yuyan's mouth. He quietly hid in the darkness, even his breathing slowed down, just waiting. The big man and another person had already walked in, and Chen Yuyan was not worried about what they could study from the light curtain. He just calculated the distance they had traveled, and began to estimate the method and time to kill the person who stayed behind. The person who stayed behind had already got out of the car, leaning against the car door very relaxedly to light a cigarette for himself. Obviously he didn't think there would be any enemies near this barren ruin. However, he didn't know that the god of death was approaching. The man took a deep breath of the cigarette, passed it through his lungs, and then let it out long, while staring curiously at the looming blue light emanating from the entrance of the underground parking lot. Sudden. He only felt as if his ankles were being grabbed by iron tongs, and then a huge force came, pulling him down to the ground. The man's chest hit the ground hard, blocking the screams from the mouth, and then he was dragged under the jeep, and his head was clasped tightly with both hands and twisted hard. He only heard a click, and his head turned 180 degrees, and the young face that appeared in front of him was the last picture he saw in his life. Chen Yuyan carried the corpse into the jeep, put it on the driver's seat, started the engine, and stuck the corpse's foot on the accelerator. After that, he got ready, let go of the handbrake suddenly, and jumped out of the car taking advantage of the situation. The engine of the jeep made a strange noise, and then rushed outside with a bang and hit a rock. At the same time, there was a burst of yelling and cursing from inside the underground parking lot, only to see the big man running out with his men angrily. "What the hell are you doing?" "Ah. 6. Bring the car back." The big man rushed out angrily, but then he saw the car hit the rock, with thick smoke billowing from the hood. The driver, on the other hand, sat motionless on the seat. He immediately became vigilant, and without hesitation rolled towards the back of a broken wall next to him. In the next second, da-da-da-da, a series of bullets hit the place where he was standing just now, and the legs of the men who were with him were hit by the bullets, and they fell to the ground and screamed loudly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 6. 6 Kill. Da-da-da-da-da. Chun Yuyan fired all the bullets in the assault rifle magazine he snatched from his hand, and the big man couldn't lift his head under the pressure. He snatched this gun, just such a magazine. He is not interested in shooting at the big man through the bunker. What he needs is to resolve the battle as soon as possible. When the big man didn't dare to raise his head, he rushed up quickly. The big man found that Chun Yuyan didn't shoot again, so he quickly poked his head out to shoot, but Chun Yuyan suddenly rushed out from the slope and grabbed the muzzle of the gun, lifted up suddenly. Da-da-da-da. The bullets all shot into the sky. Then Chun Yuyan skillfully grabbed the bolt of the gun, pulled it, and immediately unloaded the magazine. The big man wanted to pull the trigger, but there was no other reaction except for a sound of metal clashing. Looking at the trash gun in his hand, the big man threw the gun away with a roar, and pounced on him like a grizzly bear. Chun Yuyan turned around and dodged behind a pile of stones on the side of the road. Boom! The big man slammed his fist on the stone, and the gravel immediately flew. Seeing that Chun Yuyan was shocked. Who is this? There is such a powerful force. And he smashed the rock with one punch, but his hand was unscathed. No. It was not unscathed. Some of the skin on his fist had been damaged, and under the skin, some metallic luster was impressively exposed. It was a machine. He, can you see it? The big man grinned. My body has been mechanically transformed. I am a cyborg. It doesn't matter if you are a cyborg or a cyborg, you will only die here today. Chun Yuyan said in a deep voice while concentrating his mind. I think you are really tired of messing with our Black Wolf tribe. After the big man finished speaking, he pulled out a dagger from his waist with his left hand, and there was a whining sound of machinery running while waving his right hand, then rushed up again. Chun Yuyan kept backing away, and suddenly he kicked his foot. He picked up the assault rifle that had been empty just now, grabbed it and turned it over. With a bang, sparks splashed from the right arm of the big man, and the clumsy bionic skin was torn to reveal the black mechanical arm underneath. This blow was so powerful that the assault rifle suddenly bent into a twist. Chun Yuyan was also a little surprised by his own strength. He felt that his current physical condition was very good, and he didn't know what happened during his coma, but all in all, the physical enhancement rewarded by the system before had greatly improved his physical condition. Big. Now he can feel that his physical strength is stronger than his previous life. The big man was actually pushed back a step by Chun Yuyan, and then shook the mechanical arm, and found that the transmission inside was a little slow. He was a little shocked. The mysterious man in front of him was so powerful. Thinking of this, the big man's eyes shot fiercely, and he stabbed Chun Yuyan's temple with a dagger in his left hand. But what kind of person is Chun Yuyan? In his previous life, he fought for 10 years in a small country in Southeast Asia, which can be said to be the darkest place. In the past 10 years, hundreds of people died under his hands. He has a lot of experience in this kind of close combat. All I saw was that he raised his hand and waved it faintly, and grabbed the big man's dagger-holding wrist and twisted it hard. The big man only felt that his hand was numb for a while, and he couldn't use his strength. Chen Yuyan took advantage of the situation and grabbed the dagger and stabbed it towards his back. But at this moment, a sudden change occurred. This sure-to-kill knife was blocked. I only saw the big man's mechanical arm twisted 180 degrees strangely, and the dagger was directly inserted into the gap of the mechanical arm and got stuck. Chen Yuyan reacted very quickly, and immediately grabbed the dagger and twisted it violently, and suddenly there was a burst of electric sparks. Shot out from the mechanical arm. "Go to hell!" The big man roared, and the mechanical arm hit Chen Yuyan with a backhand punch, knocking him flying several meters, and then he pulled out the twisted dagger, and rushed towards Chen Yuyan like a beast. Now Chen Yuyan only felt the pain of being hit by a fire in his chest. The punch just now almost knocked him out of breath. If it wasn't for his much higher physical fitness than ordinary people now, he would have collapsed on the ground and couldn't move. He had just stood up when the big man had already rushed in front of him. He took the opportunity to grab Chen Yuyan with his mechanical arm, his eyes flashed with a fierce look, he laughed wildly and threw Chen Yuyan viciously on a cluster of tiberium crystals beside him. Boom! Chen Yuyan landed hard, the tiberium crystal was crushed violently, and the green debris covered his back. Seeing him like this, the big man laughed loudly, "Ha ha 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 ha. Yes, yes. Do you feel it? Do you feel the power of tiberium? It will erode your skin, destroy your internal organs, and then turn you into a half-human half-crystal monster. Of course, you were already dead before that. The death was extremely painful. Ha 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 ha." Hearing his words, Chen Yuyan quickly raised his hand to take a look, and sure enough, he only saw tiberium fragments sticking near the wound on his hand, seeping into the skin at a speed visible to the naked eye and disappearing. At this time, he immediately thought of the skeletons in the base with green crystals growing from their bodies. Maybe this is his fate? He, Chen Yuyan laughed instead, his face became ferocious. "Even if I am going to die, I will drag you Black Wolf tribe to hell to be buried with me." "You? Why?" The big man shook his mechanical arm and walked over step by step. Chen Yuyan looked at his mechanical arm, it was already damaged a little before, and it was stabbed again later, and now it is obviously much slower in operation. He didn't answer, he was just laughing wildly, ferociously, but he didn't realize that a green light suddenly flashed in his eyes. "Die!" Chen Yuyan roared suddenly, and rushed forward frantically. Now he only feels that there is an extremely violent force raging in his body, he wants to vent, he wants to destroy, he wants to destroy. The big man was also fierce, and rushed forward with a roar. The fists of the two collided fiercely. However, the result turned out to be evenly matched. Chen Yuyan's physical strength is comparable to a mechanical arm. Immediately afterwards, the two wrestled together, the moves were no longer important, and the strength of the two of them was also very different. Chen Yuyan felt that the majestic power in his body was churning, and with every punch and collision, this power was like this. Gushes out. However, Chen Yuyan could also feel that this power was being consumed rapidly. The big man's eyes were also red, and he was furious to the extreme. Now he just wants to tear the ant in front of him into pieces. He's a cyborg, he has robotic arms, and he's much stronger than this ant. This head-to-head hand-to-hand fight was exactly what he wanted. The two hit it off without a hitch. Boom! Chen Yuyan punched the big man's mechanical arm hard at the joint, blocking the big man's attack, and at the same time punched hard with the other hand on the big man's shoulder where the machine and the body meet. 2 punches. And the big man didn't show any weakness, the mechanical arm grabbed Chen Yuyan and threw him to the ground. "Come on. Fight. You are not my opponent. Scum." The two had a real fight, but this time, the big man suddenly saw a sneer appearing on the corner of Chen Yuyan's mouth. Before he could react, Chen Yuyan raised his hand and spilled a large piece of green powder, which was tiberium crystal. He was shocked in his heart, and hurriedly wanted to escape, but at this moment, boom! A muffled sound. The big man was stunned suddenly. He looked at Chen Yuyan in disbelief, saw the fighting spirit burning in his eyes, and slowly knelt down on the ground. Chen Yuyan withdrew his foot from under the big man's crotch, and said viciously, "When I was fighting in the street, your mother was not born yet. You, shameless villain." The severe pain in the lower body, there is no doubt that Chen Yuyan's feet are also stained with tiberium crystals, and now the tiberium mine is crazily eroding his body, which makes the big man almost lose his movement's ability. But his mechanical arm was still able to move, and he manipulated the mechanical arm to grab Chen Yuyan. Click. Chen Yuyan stabbed the joint of the mechanical arm again with the dagger he had snatched, and stirred it violently. This time, the mechanical arm was completely paralyzed after a burst of electric sparks and thick smoke burst out. "You don't deserve the justice in my heart." Chen Yuyan grabbed the hair from the back of the big man's head, and smashed his face hard on the tiberium crystal. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 7. 7 Out of Control World. Chen Yuyan stood quietly in front of the dying man, watching his reaction. Now the big man looks very miserable, his mechanical arm has been destroyed, and his body is full of scars. And the kick that Chen Yuyan kicked his lower body just now caused serious internal injuries. You must know that Chen Yuyan had undergone physical strengthening, and the strength of this kick was unimaginable. But the most deadly injury came from his face. In the end, Chen Yuyan pushed him whole on a cluster of tiberium crystals. The hard crystals smashed his face to pieces, and the shards of green crystals covered the wounds. In just a minute or two, the big man convulsed violently. He wanted to roll over and stand up, but the paralyzed robotic arm was now a heavy burden, and he could only lie on the ground and howl. Immediately afterwards, the blood vessels on his face burst out and gradually turned green, and his screams became more and more horrific, but he couldn't move under the pressure of the mechanical arm, so he could only turn over and scream into the sky, looking miserable incomparable. Gradually, those green blood vessels began to spread to the whole body, and the wound on the big man's face also began to crystallize, cracking, slag, and falling off with his screams. After a while, his screams gradually weakened, and finally there was no sound. At this time, tiberium crystals had been eroded all over his body, gradually spreading from the blood vessels to the surface of the body. Seeing this horrific way of dying, Chen Yuyan raised his hand to look at the wound on his hand, but what surprised him was that the wound on his body gradually began to heal. "What happened to my body? Why is it not corroded by the tiberium crystal, but it seems to be quite useful?" The experimenter Chen Yuyan triggers the hidden condition and will unlock the first part of the remaining pages of document 0. Hearing the system's voice, Chen Yuyan froze for a moment. File number 0? What? What does it have to do with the abnormality of your own body? Suddenly, the man who had been knocked unconscious by Chen Yuyan's bullet in the calf at the beginning let out a groan, and he slowly opened his eyes. However, when he saw Chen Yuyan, who was covered in blood, his face turned pale with shock, and then he saw the grisly dead body of the big man, and he shouted, "Wow! You, don't come over." Chen Yuyan took the assault rifle used by the big man from the ground just now, walked over and put his foot on the man's shoulder, and exerted force slowly. His strength after strengthening his physique was by no means comparable to this man's. "Just put the man on the ground and lie on his stomach." He asked coldly, "How many years is it now?" "What, how many years?" The man asked submissively. "I ask you, how many years are you now?" Chen Yuyan stomped down viciously, causing the man to eat a mouthful of mud. 20, 30. "Ah, puff," the man replied loudly while spitting out the sand in his mouth in embarrassment. "When was this city destroyed?" Chen Yuyan continued to ask. No. I don't know, it's been decades at least. That was about the last war, and I haven't been born yet. The last war? Don't you know? The rise of the Brotherhood, the establishment of the Global Defense Organization, and the formation of various countries, it's almost a world war. Then what? And then, no more. Boom. Chen Yuyan kicked again, and the man's face came into intimate contact with the concrete floor again, and he immediately yelled like a butchered pig, "Wow, ah, it's true, it's true." Then there was nothing. The country is gone, the country is gone. Although the Global Defense Organization says they have won, in fact the world is almost destroyed. What's the situation when the country is gone? Could it be that a nuclear war broke out? Chen Yuyan asked with a frown. No. There was no nuclear war, it was tiberium mines, and tiberium mines were everywhere. In addition to natural disasters and ion storms, many cities were uninhabitable, and the country disappeared afterward. The man lay on the ground and said, "Tiberium. What is tiberium? What is ion storm? Why does tiberium cause the country to disappear?" The man's emotions were a little broken. He lay on the ground and cried, "Tiberium is this kind of green crystal. After refining, it becomes liquid. I'm just a driver, I don't know so many things." "Then tell me about your Black Wolf tribe," Chen Yuyan asked sharply while observing the surroundings vigilantly. "Our boss is Chi Wei. He controls a tiberium refinery just to the north of the city. He pulls the refined liquid tiberium out to exchange for weapons and food. There are more than 200 of us, and we cover the 3 surrounding settlements. Brother, you are a ruthless person, you can join us. With your ability, you can become the captain casually, and you have no shortage of money and women." The man said everything he knew in one go. "Where is the nearest settlement from here?" Chen Yuyan asked. The man lay on the ground with his ass pouted like this, raised his finger and said, "There is a settlement of 300 to 400 people called Xingfu village over there. They grow crops on the land of a park. Walk to it'll be there in an hour." Chen Yuyan nodded, put away his pistol, kicked his ass and said, "Okay, stand up." The man stood up obediently, looked at Chen Yuyan cautiously, and said in a low voice, Big brother, we were blind to Mount Tai just now, you don't mind. I'll take you to the Black Wolf tribe, Chi Wei will definitely appreciate you very much. It doesn't matter if those trash just now died, it doesn't matter. What's your name?" Chen Yuyan's tone softened. "Huao, my name is Huao, come here, big brother, smoke." Seeing that there seemed to be hope of surviving, Huao quickly took out a cigarette from his pocket and handed it over. After taking the cigarette, Huao hurriedly turned on the lighter and lit it for him. Chen Yuyan took a deep breath, then exhaled a stream of smoke, and said flatly, "My name is Chen Yuyan, remember this name." Yes, Huao stood there anxiously looking at Chen Yuyan, not daring to show his breath. Brother, shall I take you to our base?" "No need, I'll tell you my name, mainly to thank you for telling me these things. Now, go on the road with peace of mind, and be a sensible ghost." Chen Yuyan said calmly, raising his hand with one hand without looking back. He fired the rifle and pulled the trigger before Huao could react. Boom! The bullet was accurately shot between Huao's eyebrows, and then exploded from the back of his head. A mixture of blood and brains sprayed out. Huao fell straight to the ground without moving, his face full of disbelief. Chen Yuyan dragged several corpses to a corner and hid them. After thinking for a while, he asked, "System, what is file number 0? It is a real document, related to you, but the specific information needs to be found by the experimenter." Chen Yuyan took a deep breath and said slowly, "Then the system, please show me file number 0. Immediately afterwards, only a page of A4 printing paper appeared out of thin air and fell from the sky. Chen Yuyan took it and saw that it was a document, which should have been photographed and then printed out. The document has a lot of damage, but the photographs are clear, so the writing is still legible, though a number of important areas have been smeared over. After seeing the contents of the document clearly, Chen Yuyan's expression gradually turned serious. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 8. 8 File 0. Remnant pages of document number 0, the first part. Chen Yuyan's eyes were serious and his expression was serious. He felt that this document should be related to him. It is obvious that tiberium mines are very harmful to the human body, and the big man who called himself a cyborg was completely killed in just 5 minutes. Although there is also the reason why the big man grabbed his face and smashed it on the crystal, allowing the crystal to penetrate directly into the body, thereby making the erosion and diffusion of tiberium mine faster, but tiberium mine is by no means an ordinary person. This point that can be directly touched is certain. But his body didn't respond after touching the tiberium mine, and even his strength increased a bit. That's why he was able to beat the mechanically modified big guy after that. Of course, broken eggs and so on are just secondary factors, right? In short, this shows that my current body is obviously different from ordinary people. Maybe this is the content of file number 0. Chen Yuyan was a little apprehensive, carefully deciphering the words on it, but the more he looked at it, the more gloomy his face became. Research base belongs to Life Science Research Department Researcher Log. On September 4th of the July year, a meteorite rain hit City G yesterday, and the hotel building where the research base was located collapsed. Fortunately, the structure of the base was very strong, except that the number 1 living area was smashed through by the falling elevator. Much damage was done. I hope the engineering department can fix the collapse over there as soon as possible, because it will seriously affect the sterile environment of the base. On September 5th, from the medical department told me that she found a survivor at the scene of the elevator crash. This person jumped from the pothole made by the elevator and fell into the base. September 10th, why is this survivor handed over to me? Doesn't she know I'm busy? The emergence of tiberium is a leap forward for the country and the entire human race. Why would I throw away a research job that would benefit all of humanity, just to care for a seriously injured survivor? Get out. The third trial on the neurological effects of tiberium on the human brain is at a critical juncture. On September 13th, General came to me personally, asking me to take good care of the survivor and find out his secrets. Well, he's the commander of the research base, he calls the shots. But the survivor has been thrown in the ward by me for 3 days, I hope he is still alive. September 13th, I finally understood the reason why this survivor was handed over to me. Damn, she didn't tell me in advance. If she had told me about the mutation in this survivor earlier, I would definitely not have done so. Now I have to send this survivor back to the medical department, let her rescue this dying survivor. September 14th, told me that the survivors had no major trauma, more from malnutrition. So I took this survivor back to my lab and scanned the 17 tiberium crystals that went into his back. Yes, this guy got 17 tiberium crystals in his back in the explosion pierced, and was still alive normally. September 23rd, today's test is very critical. I injected into No Zero's body, and there was no rejection. This is a good start. Maybe number 0 will be the one for us to unlock the secret of tiberium, a bunch of keys. By the way, number 0 is the code name I gave this survivor. At that time, he should have just checked into the hotel in this building. I feel that this is a gift from God, otherwise how could it be such a coincidence? October 5th, it has been proved that the body cells of number 0 will accelerate the metabolic reaction after being exposed to tiberium crystals, and this reaction is completely controllable. That is to say, this will not cause body hyperplasia or mutation. This is amazing. If the ability of number 0 can be widely used, then maybe human beings can really gain because of the appearance of tiberium. The document was torn in the middle and appeared to be missing a part. On November 2, the research base near Tiancheng City sent a message that they found equipment left by the people in a ruins, and we need to leave for Tiancheng City immediately. The recent thunderstorms are very severe, it is no longer an ordinary weather phenomenon, flying is not allowed, and there are wars everywhere. The military will send an armored battalion to escort us, hope everything goes well. February 3 in the year of Juki, this is simply a miracle. After returning from Tiancheng City, I didn't care about doing anything at all, but I must record everything that happened in the past 3 months. Number 0, he is really a gift from God to us. After arriving at the research base in Tiancheng City and seeing the equipment left by the person, the instrument actually reacted. Then we discovered that what resonated with the instrument was the blood sample number 0. That I carried with me. This is amazing. On February 4, No 0 still showed no signs of awakening, but no matter how I scanned him, his body was extremely healthy, healthier than normal people. The only difference is that his brain is very active now. According to brainwave detection, his brain activity is now more than 10 times that of ordinary people, and I haven't been able to do even one full projection scan of his brain yet. There are too many secrets in him waiting for me to discover. The document came to an abrupt end here, but Chen Yuyan's heart had already set off a turbulent storm. Number 0 is actually me. In other words, I activated the aliens' equipment? Maybe it's the energy supply equipment underground in the base. Moreover, I am actually immune to the erosion of tiberium mines, and I can even improve my metabolism and improve myself the strength and speed up the healing of the wound. Chen Yuyan raised his hands in front of his eyes, talking to himself in disbelief. Chen Yuyan sat down on the iron bucket beside him, lit a cigarette for himself, and calmed down. This number 0 document somewhat answered some of the questions in his mind. What happened after he fell into a coma? But now it seems that he has been in a coma for more than 30 years. And in the past 30 years, the outside world has undergone earth-shaking changes. The country is gone, the order has collapsed, and the war has not stopped for almost a second. The most important thing is, how did his ability to be immune to tiberium mine appear? Why me? System, is this ability to be immune to tiberium innate? Or is this my traveler's welfare? Chen Yuyan asked. When the system selects the experimenter and finds a suitable carrier, it will adjust the object of the carrier according to the strength of the target's soul. Your soul strength is very high, so the carrier you get is also a very strong type. Is that what you mean by adding a little bit of luck to your achievements in your previous life? Chen Yuyan agrees with this answer. How can he say that he also destroyed one of the biggest drug lords in a small Southeast Asian country in his previous life, although he didn't get a bonus, right? But it's not bad to get some benefits this way. Indeed. Chen Yuyan nodded. The immunity ability needs further verification. Now he has too few chips in his hand, and he knows nothing about this world. At this time, the blue light curtain in the underground parking lot suddenly flashed, and then disappeared. At the same time, the system beeped. The manufacturing center has been built, please check it for the experimenter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 9. 9 Manufacturing Center. Chen Yuyan was overjoyed and hurried into the underground parking lot. On the basement floor, he only saw a large area in the middle as if it had collapsed, with broken structural columns and walls scattered here and there. If he didn't know that this place hadn't collapsed before, he wouldn't be able to tell that there was anything here. Strange. But he knew that the factory with a height of 10 meters was from the third basement level of the parking lot to the first basement level. This area that looked like it was the manufacturing center. Is this the camouflage mode? It's so powerful, it's almost invisible. Chen Yuyan sighed, and he came to the second basement floor again. It was still the same, nothing could be seen except a collapsed ruin. All the way down to the third basement floor, he turned around and didn't see where the entrance was, until he muttered in his heart, "The base is open." Only then did a piece of collapsed ruins crack open, revealing a passage. Entering from the passage, there is an open loading and unloading platform, and there are many garage-like spaces on both sides, but these places are now empty. According to the reminder, Chen Yuyan's thoughts moved, and a holographic map appeared in front of him, which was a topographic map of the manufacturing center. He could see that although the manufacturing center covers a large area, there are not many areas where he can move. The two parts that occupy the largest area are the warehouse and the factory, and these two areas cannot be entered at all and are completely closed. In addition to this is a loading and unloading platform and a general control room. On the side of the loading and unloading platform, there is an extra elevator, which is integrated with the elevator for entering and exiting the underground base, and then you can enter and exit directly from here. Coming to the main control room, the decoration here is like the president's office. In the middle is a 3D projected hologram, and on the other side is a large desk and a comfortable swivel chair. Behind the swivel chair is a huge screen, can project a variety of images to create a different atmosphere here. Chen Yuyan sat on the swivel chair, and immersed himself in the soft cushion and backrest very comfortably, and began to check the changes in the infinite base operation interface in his mind. The construction of the manufacturing center is completed, the current level is 1, and the resource function has been unlocked. Advanced composite resource detected, Tiberium mine, reintegrating resource function, completed. The current types of resources are, stone, metal raw materials, Tiberium mines, and energy. When the experimenter unlocks more functions, the corresponding resource types will appear. Advanced composite resource. It seems that this kind of Tiberium mine is still a very powerful resource. Chen Yuyan thought in his heart. Then he suddenly thought of a very important question, so he asked, "System, what is the current energy usage of the base?" The power generation capacity provided by the unknown alien building is 50,000 kW/h, and the power generation capacity provided by the manufacturing center is 10,000 kW/h. Experimenters are requested to replenish the power generation material, Tiberium ore, as soon as possible. The current energy consumption of the underground base is 40,000 kW/h, and there is still 20,000 kW/h left. Chen Yuyan jumped up quickly. He hadn't forgotten that the energy reserve of the underground alien power station was only 3%, and he needed to replenish it quickly. However, the energy consumption of the underground base has reached 40,000 kW/h. This is equivalent to the power generation of a small power plant. As for the underground base, Chen Yuyan remembered that there was nothing more than a few dormitories. In other words, in the place where it was buried, there are still devices operating and consuming a lot of power. As soon as he said it, he quickly found some Tiberium crystals around him, wrapped them in the clothes of the people he had killed before, and walked towards the underground base. At the same time, prompts from the system kept coming. The manufacturing center has reached level 1, and the experimenter gets a level 1 reward, which can be randomly drawn once. After that, every time the manufacturing center upgrades, a reward can be drawn randomly. Rewards are buildings, items, or technology, regardless of level, completely random, but the greater the difference between the level of the reward and the current level of the infinite factory, the lower the chance of drawing. Do I need to draw level 1 rewards? What the hell, why is there a lottery in the base? Chen Yuyan asked as he walked. He dumped a large bag of Tiberium crystals into the feed port of the alien power station in the underground base, and the energy reserve immediately up to 8%. It seems that the capacity of this alien power station is indeed very small. This is the rule made by the creator of the infinite base, the source of civilization. If you can meet him, you may be able to ask him face to face. Chen Yuyan curled his lips. Just the tip of the iceberg of the function of this infinite base is beyond his imagination, not to mention the creator of this base, That is simply a god-level civilization. Come on, those who can create this source of civilization, their technological level is so powerful, how could I meet him? Forget it, let's draw a reward. Numerous images flashed through Chen Yuyan's mind immediately. He could see among them weapons that were extremely advanced at first glance, powerful robot followers, blueprints of various technological creations, and even spaceships. He was able to draw a spaceship. But Chen Yuyan knew after thinking about it, the level of the spaceship is different from the level 1 infinite factory he just built, and the chance of getting it is 1 in billions. The screen flashes quickly, it moved, and finally stopped on a silver-white building. Congratulations to the experimenter for receiving the reward, Worker Ant Drone Factory. The building is now ready to be constructed without requiring resources. Chen Yuyan hurriedly clicked on the building list, and sure enough, a new building appeared in it. Worker Ant Drone Factory. Worker Ant Drone Factory. Construction conditions, Level 1 Infinite Factory. Construction resources, none. Bonus building, no resources required. Building size, 10m x 10m x 3m. Function, can manufacture and maintain worker ant drones. Each factory can accommodate 20 worker ant drones. Energy consumption, 1000 kW/h. This thing is not big, just the size of a 100 square meter apartment. Chen Yuyan thought about it and said, build the drone factory next to the entrance of the infinite factory, and build it in camouflage mode. It takes 2 hours to start the construction of the worker ant drone factory and use the camouflage mode. As before, a blue light curtain appeared instantly, but the scale of this light curtain was much smaller, and it was almost impossible to see it from the outside. Only then did Chen Yuyan be free. He looked at the assault rifle in his hand, and said silently, scan. Scanning is complete. The data of the Scorpion Eye assault rifle and supporting parts has been entered into the infinite base. Chen Yuyan opened the interface of the infinite factory in his mind, and there was an extra category in the construction list, Nod Technology Tree, in which the icon of this assault rifle hung there alone. The Scorpion Eye assault rifle uses 9mm x 52mm bullets with a bullet velocity of 1103 m/s and a magazine capacity of 20 rounds. Construction resources, 5 kg of metal raw materials, 0.2 kg of refined tiberium ore. 9mm caliber rifle cartridge, 52 mm long. Construction resources, 100 g of metal raw materials, 5 g of tiberium crystal. A 9mm caliber assault rifle? That's not quite right. Isn't the development trend of assault rifles getting smaller and smaller in caliber? Or is there any special need in this world? Chen Yuyan frowned and thought for a while, then said, System, build a Scorpion-type Eye assault rifle. Insufficient resources, unable to manufacture. Chen Yuyan was taken aback for a moment, but then he came to his senses and asked, by the way, how should I collect resources? Within the control range of the infinite base, just put your hands on the resources and silently collect them. The control range of the current infinite base is within 100 meters around the manufacturing center. Chen Yuyan thought for a while, came to the wreckage of a car, put his hand on it and said silently, start collecting. A strange thing happened, only to see that the wreckage of the car was suddenly covered by a blue light, then gradually melt away. About 2 minutes later, the wreckage of the car completely disappeared without a trace. At the same time, Chen Yuyan saw that the stock of metal raw materials had increased to 200 kilograms in the resource interface of Infinite Factory. A car, even if it is a rotting wreck, definitely weighs more than 200 kilograms. It seems that during the collection process, the infinite base has already refined the resources. Then Chen Yuyan did the same thing, collected some green tiberium crystals, and said again, System, build a Scorpion-type Eye assault rifle. Under construction, it will take 1 minute, the construction is complete, please check it at the loading and unloading platform of the manufacturing center. Chen Yuyan immediately entered the manufacturing center, and sure enough, he saw a brand new assault rifle placed in the middle of the loading and unloading platform, which was almost exactly the same as the one in his hand. But looking at the dark gun body, exquisite polishing, and the smell of gun oil, this manufacturing process is much better than the crude one in hand. Is this the product of unlimited base? It's too strong. Chen Yuyan has also been dealing with guns for a long time, so he naturally knows that this gun is absolutely the best. You must know that even the products produced on the industrial assembly line have good quality and bad quality. The guns with the best quality are basically handcrafted by master craftsmen. For example, the Beretta in the world before was the master of handmade firearms. Level company. And the quality of this brand new Scorpion I assault rifle is completely comparable to the best handmade by the top gunsmiths. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 10. 10 Reward Building. Then Chen Yuyan produced some more bullets, put the new rifle on his back, and came to the side of the wrecked jeep outside. System, start scanning. The scan is complete, and the data integrity of the Mustang military jeep is now 80%, and the data can be entered into the database after the data is complete. What do you mean by data integrity? Chen Yuyan asked. The scanned object has been damaged, please scan more samples to obtain complete data. Forget it, collect. Chen Yuyan changed the command, and the blue light swept across, and after 1 minute, the crashed jeep turned into 800 kilograms of metal raw materials and 2 kilograms of tiberium. As a highly versatile resource, many things can be converted into tiberium, and the conversion process is automatically completed by the manufacturing center. Chen Yuyan tried to collect countless stones from the nearby ruins, and obtained more than 1,000 kilograms of stones. However, he also found that collecting resources in this way is actually very inconvenient. He roughly calculated that it takes about 2 minutes for 1,000 kilograms of stone, and about 2 minutes for 500 kilograms of metal. For tiberium crystals, only about 10 kilograms can be collected in 2 minutes. Strictly speaking, this speed is actually not slow, but the problem is that it needs to take up his time, and it is impossible for him to do nothing all day long and focus on collecting resources, right? At this time, the worker ant drone factory under construction was completed, and Chen Yuyan saw that the blue light curtain beside him disappeared in an instant, leaving a pile of rubble-like ruins. The construction of the worker ant drone factory has been completed, and now the building has been included in the building list, and it can be built if the conditions are met. Worker ant drones are already on the production list and ready to be built. Chen Yuyan looked at the extra worker ant drones in the construction list in his mind, and was overjoyed. Worker ant drone, length 0.8 m, load 100 kilograms, maximum speed 30 kilometers per hour. Function, moving items, collecting resources. Construction resources, 100 kilograms metal, 5 kilograms tiberium ore. Construction time, 10 minutes per piece, constructed by the drone factory and will not occupy the construction sequence of the infinite factory. What is missing now is the collection of resources. Chen Yuyan was overjoyed and said, System, build 20 worker ant drones. The construction of the worker ant drone has started and will be completed in 200 minutes. Chen Yuyan waited happily beside the factory, and 10 minutes later, a drone covered in black crawled out of the drone factory. This drone is roughly oval in shape, has 8 mechanical legs, and crawls very fast. There are a pair of pliers-like mechanical claws in the front, and a cargo bucket in the rear. At first glance, it is indeed true. It's kind of like an ant. Under the prompt of the system, he directly issued an order through the drone factory, only to see that the worker ant drone immediately moved, crawled to the side of a cluster of tiberium crystals, and collected the crystals for storage in a few seconds. Get into the cargo bucket behind, and then climb towards another tiberium crystal non-stop. Soon, the cargo bucket behind the worker ant drone was filled with tiberium mines, and then it crawled towards the alien power station in the underground base according to the instructions. Chen Yuyan followed along, because on the way from the underground base to the alien power station, there was a corridor of ruins with complex terrain and a damaged elevator shaft. He was a little curious whether these drones could go down. Then he was very pleasantly surprised to see that this worker ant drone was able to crawl vertically down the elevator shaft. It stretched out sharp claws in front of its 8 mechanical claws, and firmly grasped the elevator shaft without shaking at all. Seeing that the energy reserves of the alien power station are increasing, Chen Yuyan's heart also falls. As the drones are built one by one, they begin to collect various resources around them. The intelligence level of this drone seems to be very high. System, who is controlling these drones? Chen Yuyan asks strangely. It is controlled by the central computer of the manufacturing center, but this kind of control is limited. After all, you need to find the construction technology of the command system, and build it to assist the command work of various automatic units. Understood. Now this infinite base is poor and useless, everything needs me to find and scan everywhere, right? Indeed so. The worker ant drones are still busy, and the number is increasing. Among the ruins of the city, the concrete blocks on the collapsed buildings are the best choice for stone materials, while the steel bars inside the concrete and the car wrecks that can be seen everywhere are the source of metal materials, all of which are collected by worker ant drones. After that, they are stacked on the loading platform of the infinite factory, and then refined into resources by the factory for storage. After accumulating resources to a certain level, Chen Yuyan built another 20 worker ant drones. The drone factory can hold 20 drones, so it can work in 2 shifts. With the work of worker ant drones, Chen Yuyan saw that the resource reserves of Infinity Factory are increasing. After the construction of another 20 drones, Infinity Factory has accumulated 120,000 kilograms of stone, 50,000 kilograms of metal, and 3,000 kilograms of tiberium. Submine. Seeing more and more resources, Chen Yuyan couldn't help feeling a surge of pride in his heart. He wished he could start construction immediately, build an extremely powerful base immediately, build a large army, and fight for hegemony in the world. But, he saw the empty list of buildings again, and only then realized that what he could actually do was very limited. To put it bluntly, there were not many usable things at all. By the way, how should the infinite factory be upgraded? Chen Yuyan thought of a question and asked. After building 5 different level 1 buildings, the infinite factory will be upgraded to level 2. The current number of level 1 buildings, 0, the current number of level 2 buildings, 1. Sure enough, it is reasonable to scan more technologies and build more buildings. Just as he was thinking, a system prompt came over. Mission completed. Experimenter Chen Yuyan has completed the construction of the manufacturing center and ensured the safety of the surrounding environment. In the task completion evaluation, the experimenter Chen Yuyan's task evaluation was A level, and an extra reward for primary physical enhancement. The experimenter can return to the original medical cabin to complete the physical enhancement. The experimenter Chen Yuyan has completed the assessment and has become an official experimenter. He is currently grouped into the bronze group. The multidimensional universe shuttle function has been activated. Mission accomplished? Chen Yuyan took a deep breath, and asked, "Okay, you've been working on the system for a long time, so you should tell me what this Lao Shizi experimenter is, right?" After becoming an official experimenter, the multidimensional universe shuttle function will be activated. The experimenter must regularly travel to other worlds, and the system will also issue tasks for those worlds. According to the completion of the task, the experimenter can get reward points, which can be used to redeem system functions or items.